Hi, friends. You are listening to the EntreEd Talk podcast, where we feature amazing educators and entrepreneurs showcasing how you can bring entrepreneurship into the classroom. We believe entrepreneurship is for everyone. I am your host, Toy Hirschman, and I am so glad you chose to join me on this journey. Let's go.
All right, friends, welcome back to another exciting episode of the EntreEd Talk podcast. Our guest today is Sarah Adams. She owns and operates a pet and farm care business in South Carolina called Farmily Pet Care, where she provides all kinds of services for animals. As you know, it is one of my favorite things to interview a young and inspiring entrepreneur doing great things, and Sarah is just that. So welcome, Sarah. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
I'm excited to be here.
This is awesome. So can you give us a little bit of background about your business and, what got you started and how you got to where you are today?
So I grew up in the country. We always had a lot of animals. And when life wasn't consistent, animals always were. I've worked several other jobs in the pet care industry. I've worked in shelters. I was actually in the administration office in one of the shelters here in the upstate for a little while. I was a volunteer coordinator. I did a lot of stuff there. And then I worked at a vet for a little while until I had my my second hip surgery. And after that, I had some complications recovering from that. It didn't really fix the problem. It didn't the first time either, obviously. But going back and having to stand for 8 to 9 hours a day was really hard. So I decided to start my own business, which I had done when I graduated high school, so pre-COVID. But when COVID hit, everybody stopped traveling and they were home with their pets. So they didn't need pet care as much. So that's when I started working in the shelter environment. But getting back into it was a lot of fun. It helps me a lot mentally because I do have ADHD. So being able to make my own schedule helps me a lot and helps me to manage my symptoms.
That's awesome. So what kind of services plug your business a little bit? What kind of stuff do you do?
So I do a lot of farm care. That's honestly my main goal right now. And coming back into it because I was coming off of my second hip surgery, that wasn't something I really wanted to focus on. I was trying to focus more on boarding and maybe some training, and some, potty breaks while people were at work. Because when everybody went on lockdown for COVID, they got a bunch of animals. And then when they had to go back to work, those animals are now at home when they're not used to. So that was really my main focus. But as my hip got stronger and I was able to do more things, now my biggest focus is farm care. That's how I make the majority of my income. And honestly, I make enough income doing that to where all the other stuff is just extra. So I do grooming, boarding, walks. I can do some basic training, just that kind of stuff. I do a lot of nail trims. I do some home visits for that. Baths and stuff I prefer to do here because I do have a little grooming setup that I use, and it is hard to carry that around since I don't have a van that I do that out of like a lot of people do.
That's awesome. Can you explain for some of the folks that don't, and I'm one of them, what is farm care?
A lot of times when people go on vacation, well, a lot of farmers honestly don't go on vacation. I have a client actually that shared with me that she actually had to miss her sister's funeral because she didn't have anybody to take care of her farm. Oh, wow. And that's such a big responsibility because a lot of people, somebody can stay at your house and take care of your dog. You just feed a dog. But larger animals like goats and cattle, horses, llamas, donkeys, they have more complicated systems, and you really want somebody that knows what they're doing, because those animals you can write those off on your taxes. That's a big income for a lot of people, especially cattle around here. There's a lot of people that raise cows. and they get tax write-offs for that. So they want to make sure that their animals are cared for, especially since that is how they're getting their income. And things like goats can just go out so quickly. So I do a lot of, when I say farm care, a lot of times when people go on vacation, I'll take care of their farm for them. I always do, like, I call it a quote, but I go around feeding time and they show me where everything is, how everything is done. And I either take a notebook to write down exactly which steps have to be done in this order, and or I have somebody write out a detailed list of things that they would like me to do, just so the level of care is the same across the board and the animals don't feel as much that their owners are gone. And then there's people that run farms. I have a client just a couple minutes down the road from me, and she runs a big farm. She breeds mini donkeys and hedgehogs and tortoises, baby doll sheep, all kinds of stuff. She has llamas and chickens, and it's really hard, and rabbits, and it's really hard for her to take care of all that by herself. Especially also trying to juggle work and dealing with her family. So I help her several times a week. I also help out at a kennel. It's a family owned thing. So these people don't hire me as if I'm an employee, but they are a client of mine. So I do help them often with training or any type of vet work that needs to be done. Like the donkeys, I'll help with vaccines and deworming, grooming. We've actually had a couple of donkeys. We had one yesterday that had a baby because she does breed them, and they are adorable. And I help socialize and just make sure that they're friendly and they're able to be handled by whoever buys them.
Wow. That is a variety, Sarah.
It is.
Animals and duties. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot of cleaning, a lot of grooming, just routine care, and then some stuff is out of the blue. Like I was watching a horse the other week, and she had a baby while her family was in Disney, and the baby colicked, and it was only 2 days old. So I had to deal with vets and contacting the owners to make sure they knew everything, and just making sure that everything was cared for, and that the owners, because that is a very stressful situation, especially when that is a big source of income for a lot of people. And horses are pregnant for close to a year. It's a very long time. So to lose that baby that you waited so long for, it's a lot. So the family, they let me know that they felt safe, and that they're glad that they found someone who knew so much about the animals, because they probably would have had to come back from their first vacation to Disney if they wouldn't have had somebody that knew the signs and knew how to take care of the situation.
Wow. How did you learn all of this? Did you study this, or did you learn from training, or how did you get, because this, like, I'm just thinking the sheer number of different types of animals plus knowing these specific things. Like, I'm sure a horse getting ready to have a baby is probably different than other animals getting ready to have a baby.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I grew up around animals. And growing up, we had dogs and cats, have puppies. We've always fostered a lot. My grandparents used to be big in that, and now I do as well. I take in a lot of cats, actually, but I do a lot of research that also, it helps my ADHD, and it gives me this boost of dopamine that just helps me get through. When I'm driving, I'm not the person that listens to the radio. I'm the weird one that plays different informational videos and documentaries while I'm driving to occupy my mind. And that's how I learn a lot of stuff. And all like I have goats myself, and I'm a part of so many different vet groups. So I can see when other people have issues with their goats, I can go through and see how they solved it, how they handled it, and how the situation worked. There is a lot, and I have done loads and loads of research on all these animals. And then the people that have them that I work for, they teach me a lot as well, because to be able to manage, I mean, a lot of people just get dogs and you can just have a dog, But when you get something like a goat, they have different, goats have 4 stomachs and dogs have 1. It is their digestive system. I know a lot of information, but simple words leave my brain.
Hey, you're talking to the master of things leaving right now.
So animals like goats and cows have different types of digestive systems. They have to be sternal, which is when their spine is up. They can't be on their sides or on their backs. Their stomachs can twist. They can bloat, which will kill them very fast. There's so much, and I definitely don't know everything, but I try to retain as much information as I can. So I know how to take care of these animals. And a lot of times, well, pretty much all the time, it is easier to know what is right. So when the things aren't specifically what they should be, you can tell that obviously something is wrong. I may not know what, but with goats and honestly dogs too, you can check their capillary refills to see if they're anemic. Dogs you can tell with their gums, but goats you can tell by their eyelids. There's different signs and body languages that they give to show that something is wrong, that maybe a vet may need to intervene, or maybe it's something I can manage myself. Because a lot of times it does start with early realization that something is wrong, and that can save hundreds and thousands of dollars in vet bills if you know what to look for. So that's a lot of reasons that people will choose me over other people, because there are a lot, and this is, I struggle with this a good bit. There's a lot of teenagers coming out of high school, or they're just on summer break, and they like to do stuff like this because they want the extra money, or they like animals, which is completely fine. And I did that at first. That's how I got started. But to have the information is more valuable to the customer. So they feel more comfortable leaving their animals and knowing that they'll be safe and cared for and healthy while they're gone.
That's great. So you're like not just the horse whisperer, you're like the tortoise, miniature
Cat,
donkey.
dog, yeah, miniature donkey, llama.
That's awesome. All the whispers. That is so cool. So that kind of leads into another question. So how, you kind of answered it a little bit, but how did you go about finding your customers? Do you stumble upon them, or have you actively sought different people out or gone out and marketed?
So I do some marketing. Honestly, it's very little because I stay pretty busy. There's days that, for example, a couple weeks ago, I was getting up at 7 a.m. and going to my first job, and I would not get back home to stay for the night until around 10:30. That was for spring break because everybody was going on vacation. So I had a lot of farms. So I would leave one and go straight to the other. And it was back to back for probably about 2 weeks, which I do enjoy times like that. It's great. And most of my customers have, well, I started out with people that I knew because they knew that I had cared for their animals before. And then when I went full time with it, they started spreading the word around like, hey, this girl takes very good care of my animals while I'm gone. And if you need somebody, because there's a lot of, especially older farmers that aren't on social media and that don't see advertisements as much. And then I do use the advertising on Facebook, and I found a good many people like that, especially sharing in farm pages, because there's a lot of local businesses, farms in there that have hired me. And then, of course, they tell their friends who are also farmers, and it just gets around that way. I have a lot of people contacting me. I have multiple, probably around 10 people that contact me every single day to get scheduled for a quote or just to ask about my services and things like that. So I do market some, but at this point, I really don't have to. I did a good bit in the beginning just to get my name out. But after that, I really haven't had any issue at all with being able to get customers in.
That's very fortunate. Have you ever considered, or have you thought any about in the future having to hire somebody or several somebodies?
I have. I feel like at first it would probably be to help me answer messages, um, because I get so many messages that I have trouble getting to, especially when I'm working full days. And then if I don't get in until 10:30 at night, I still have to take care of my own farm. I have chickens, goats, um, 6 dogs, a bunch of cats, turkeys, guineas, geese, ducks, all kinds of stuff. So I have to take care of them. And then by the time I actually get in, I just have to get ready for bed and get up and do it again in the morning. So it is very challenging to find time to respond to phone calls, go through voicemails, answer messages, and things like that. So I have thought about it. It may be closer than I think. It'll probably just be like an office person to handle paperwork and stuff like that. But eventually, yeah, I do hope to expand to that level.
That's wild. That's so cool. Yeah, I can see how that would be super helpful to just have somebody like scheduling and figuring out times and calendar stuff. And that would be super, super helpful.
Yeah.
I know that, I don't know I know there's some services you can get people that will do that virtually too, which could be like a cheaper
Yes.
option.
Yeah.
So speaking of all of this awesome stuff, how do you balance your life with all of the things that you're doing? How do you how do you stay even keeled when you're juggling all of these things?
When you do something you love, it's a lot different than just working. I really, really, really struggled when I was working 9 to 5s to come home, and honestly, a lot of times I just didn't want to deal with all the stuff I had to deal with my animals, but I was constantly stressed about their health, about their well-being, about just their cleanliness and all that stuff, especially my goats and my birds outside, because I do have a good many of those. Um, and especially this time of year, it's been raining for a good few days now. And this is the time of year that parasites are really starting to come up. And I really have to keep an eye on that and make sure that they're all good and okay. And that was something I couldn't manage when I was working a 9 to 5. So now that I make my own schedule, I can tell by the weather and um, just the different circumstances that I got going on when I'm going to need to have more time to spend with my personal animals and to take care of things around the house. So I can get up in the morning and take care of my animals before I have my first scheduled job. And sometimes I'll schedule jobs really early and then I'll finish that. And then I get to come back home and do what I need to do. So it's not like I work straight through all day. A lot of people will have me care for their animals either in the morning or in the afternoon. Um, and then I do a couple potty breaks in the middle of the day. So I have a lot of days, I do have a few hours around the middle of the day to get things done that I need to. And that really helps me maintain a balance. And then a lot of times, usually after 9 o'clock, I'm able to kind of come in and rest and just take time for myself and my family for the rest of the day.
That's great. That's always a big thing with entrepreneurs because you're so focused and it's energizing. I mean, you're doing something you love, but it's also just it's figuring out where that balance is and how to keep your sanity when you're trying to grow and run a business. So that's
Yes.
super
Sometimes I
important.
do struggle with it. But I am learning how to manage it. I've been doing this around 8 or 9 months now. So I feel like I'm finally starting to get in a place where I'm kind of level-headed. And I say that now, and summer's coming when everybody's going on vacation. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, I'm figuring out how to manage it pretty well.
That's great. That's great. What do you think is the advantages or disadvantages of being a young entrepreneur compared to someone that's old like me and starting a business?
Big thing is experience. And honestly, I haven't faced that too much with what I'm focusing on now. But with things I've done in the past, a lot of times people will choose somebody who's a little bit older because they feel like they have more experience or more knowledge about a situation. and I talk to my parents a lot about what I do and how I keep up with things, and they say they have no idea. And some of the things that I just rattle off, and some of the things that are just first nature in my mind, that when I see something, I can just act on it. They honestly, most of the time, they don't even know that there's a problem. So it's not like they even know how to fix it. Um, so it's really, a lot of people look at age rather than experience because they feel like experience comes with age. Um, and there are some people that prove that it does not. But um, I feel like I do have a lot of advantages being younger. I can kind of sort things out, and right now there's really nothing that'll be detrimental to my business. When if I was older and if I was married with a family, I feel like any difference in financial things or any difference in schedule or anything like that could be a lot harder to have to manage than now. So I feel like that's a big advantage, is not having the responsibility of my own family right now.
Right. I'm glad that you said that. Not that there's anything wrong with having your own family, but we talk to students a lot and try to explain, like, it's an advantage to start younger because of that very reason. You don't necessarily have as many obligations and things that somebody that my age would have, like picking up the kids from school,
Yeah.
and then snow days and all of those fun things, and
Yeah.
everything else that goes with it, which are wonderful things, but that we share with students. Get a business started now, you can grow your business, and when you're ready to do those other things, you might have employees that can take care of things when you
Yeah.
do. So that is an advantage. Where do you see, where would you like to see your business go in the future? Do you have a goal or a vision in mind?
Yeah, so I really do like the farm care a lot. I'm hoping to eventually expand to a dog kennel. I do some boarding in my home. I'm working towards getting the funds for a building so I can have some kennels, because I feel like it would bring a lot of new revenue, a lot of new business, and just get something different. Um, and with the kennel being placed on my property, with my home, I would be able to go back and forth and manage things a lot easier that way. I wouldn't have to use nearly as much gas to be traveling to different places. So I really do hope to see that. Hopefully by the end of this year, I'm hoping to get a kennel, and be able to board several dogs at a time. And also I am hoping to get a separate building for cats, to board cats, because I've noticed there's a lot of people around here that do have a need for that. But there's not really many places around here that will board cats. So that's a big help too, because a lot of people do have different kinds of pets, and I feel like that'll be a big help to my area.
Wow, that's pretty aggressive. That's exciting. I was thinking you were going to say, like, in a couple of years, at the end of the year, we're going to have a kennel. Let's go for it. That's
We
amazing.
got to aim big, and if we miss, at least we've still got a good few steps ahead of us.
That's right. I'm so glad you said that. What would you say to a young person that wants to start their own business, whether it's in your field or another field?
I feel like this is kind of something I wish I had done, but I've talked to some of my friends about it. They have a lot of knowledge on a specific topic. Like I have a friend she has an art degree and she is great in photography, and she really wants to do something different with her life because she's been working in a factory. And I've been trying to convince her to start her own photography business because she's very good at it. And some advice I've given her is, because she's not completely comfortable just quitting her job and going full force like I did. Um, I kind of told her maybe to start a few days a week, start it as a hobby. And as she grows, maybe cut down to part-time with a day job. That way she can manage it that way and figure out how she needs to move forward with her business and navigate that without having to deal with the financial stress that may come with it at first.
Yeah, that is really good advice. We tell students a lot of times that that's another, do your job, keep your day job, and try something, because you might even find out that the thing you thought you would start a business about, like you thought maybe photography was something you thought you'd start a business about, but then you start doing that and then it might shift a little bit into something else. And it's good to have that safety net sometimes. It's also good and empowering if you can do what you did and just go for it.
Yes. And I definitely wouldn't have done it that way if it wasn't for my surgery and me already being out of work for over 2 months. So we've talked about that. She said, and your awesome parents. But yeah, my parents definitely did help a lot. As I was saying, I definitely wouldn't have been able to do that if I was having to support my own family.
That's awesome. So what did you have any besides your awesome parents? Did you have any other mentors kind of as in the last 8 months or even before that when you were thinking about all of this?
So my mom, she was trying to encourage me to do it because she's run her own business for 13 years now, just cleaning houses, and she makes her own schedule, and that is amazing to me. She really tried to encourage me. She told me she thought I could do it. And I just wasn't sure. So I was having interviews at different places, and this girl that I graduated high school with, she has some schooling in dog training, but she started her own kennel just out of her grandma's garage. And she's been hiring other people, and about 8 months ago I went and interviewed for her. But just seeing the way she had things set up and that she could do it at our age, that really inspired me a lot. And we recommend each other because we do focus on different things. She does training for hunting dogs and basic training. She does train and stay, so it's like a 3-week program that she has. We really recommend each other because I do boarding in my home and she does boarding in kennels. So she actually does have a dog kennel, and it's a big metal building that she can train out of, and she has employees. And just seeing how far she had come in such a little time after graduation really inspired me. And when I left that interview, I was like, this is not something I want to do with you, but I feel like I can do it a little bit different. Start with farm, because I do have a love for farm animals. They're so amazing to me and such calming creatures. So she really inspired me a lot to start. And that's honestly what made my decision to go full in on it. And I actually made a post as I was driving home from her house, that I would be offering farm care. And before I even got home, I had 5 different people that had messaged me about taking care of their farm. And that really gave me a lot of hope that I would really be able to do this.
That's awesome. How did you make a post while driving?
We're not going to talk about that. I was very excited. And that comes with ADHD. When my mind is set on something, it's getting done. So I did stop at a red light and type real quick. But then as I was driving home, I was getting messages.
That's so cool. Well, that is wonderful. Congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
I love hearing that. That's just wonderful. So how can someone that might be interested in your services get a hold of you, or someone that's interested in just connecting with you to learn about your journey? How can they do that?
So I do, my phone number is on my Facebook page, but I try to keep all of my messages on my business Facebook page just to keep things in one place. It makes it easier for me. My business page is Farmily Pet Care on Facebook. I'm working on getting a website. A lot of people have asked, so I do need to start getting on that. But for right now, I just have a Facebook business page. that people can go to. And I've got some posts about me, just talking about kind of my background. That helps a lot of people feel more comfortable about who they're actually contacting. And then I occasionally, when I have my client's approval, I'll post pictures of something I'm doing or some of their animals. And some of the farms that I work on, I do give a little plug in there too. So they can see a lot of that stuff on my Facebook page. If anybody would like to contact me, they can go to that page and click on the message button and they can contact me through there.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to put that in the notes, the show notes, as they say. But that is wonderful. Sarah, I'm really grateful that you were able to chat today, and you are awesome. You are so awesome. And I know you're going to do whatever you want to do with this business. I know that it's going to be a success. So you just need that virtual assistant person. That sounds
yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And again, I'm so glad that you were here today.
Thank you.